Welcome to Breakdown, January 7th, 2025, JJ. Been a while since we did an episode.
It has been a while. It's been a couple of weeks.
Yeah, one of us been living it up in Cancun. It wasn't me, but I ain't gonna call no names.
Yeah, well, we're all living in this below freezing weather now in Michigan.
Got that right. JJ,
Yeah.
what is it that we should be talking about today?
Well, it's a new year. March is right around the corner.
We deal with the SEC, the Big Ten, SEC versus the Big Ten, and we're going to be talking football, not professional football. We're going to be talking college football.
You know what? We're going to change it up and talk a little college football.
Okay, JJ,
Dad.
the college football playoff is underway. First round is over, quarterfinals is over, semifinals are Thursday and Friday of this week. Did anything surprise you so far?
I would have to say the degree to which Oregon lost. I thought Ohio State was going to beat Oregon. A lot of people did, but I didn't think that they were going to beat Oregon the way that they did. I thought they just demolished Oregon.
Yeah, they did. Final score was not indicative of the real score. The final score was like 41-21, but
Yeah, it was not a 20-point game.
Yeah.
It was 34-0 at one point.
JJ, does it surprise you that the top four seeds are gone? History, bye-bye?
It surprised me that two of them are gone. But the other two, well, maybe just one of them.
Which one surprised you?
Well, under normal circumstances, I would say Georgia losing would be surprising, but they were obviously without their starting quarterback,
And it showed,
and
too.
it absolutely showed. So I guess that one wasn't as surprising as it normally would have been. But the only surprising one to me,
In the first round of the quarterfinals. Because you already said, I'm sorry, JJ, I interrupted, but you said that the Georgia Notre Dame game surprised you, and then now you're saying there's another one that surprised you. I'm just trying to be clear.
I mean, I guess you could. I mean, Oregon losing
Oh,
could
the
have
degree,
been.
yeah.
Yeah, the degree to which they lost, but they were. I can't remember. Did they enter the game as a favorite? Oregon.
No.
Okay, so they were the underdog.
And JJ, do you think Oregon got shafted because they were the only undefeated team in the playoff, and then they ended up having to play their first game against who everybody thought to start the playoff had the best chance of winning? Does that sound fair to you?
It doesn't, but it makes a little bit more sense when you think of like the 16-team playoff. There's not as much wiggle room as like a 64 or 68 team tournament where you can like move people out of different regions and brackets or whatever. But yeah, Oregon was faced with a very unconventional, untraditional 8 seed, or was Ohio?
Eight.
Yeah, they were. Ohio State was the 8 seed. Yeah.
JJ, in the quarterfinals, all the home teams, all the lower seeds lost. And in the first round, all the road team lost, so the home team won, and then there were no home teams after that. I want to talk about the SEC, JJ.
Okay.
If it were not for the conference realignment that occurred back in July, the SEC would not have a team in the semifinals.
The Big Ten would still have 2 though.
The Big Ten would still have two, and the third team that's in the quarterfinal, in the semifinals, Notre Dame, lives in the Big Ten footprint area.
But aligns themselves with the ACC out of stubbornness.
Okay, but so JJ, what I'm trying to get to is the SEC. Is the king dead?
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that they've been focusing all their attention on all these other sports. You know, they've been dominant in women's basketball, winning the most recent championships at LSU and South Carolina. It's won like 3 out of 4 maybe. You know, they're dominant in baseball. Maybe they've been spreading their sports dominance too thin in,
Well, you
the
forgot
main sport of choice.
you forgot their main dominance.
Oh, men's basketball, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, we'll see how long that lasts. But also, yeah, men's basketball. I mean, those are the sports that they prioritized: football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball. And SEC has been dominant in all the others. So maybe they've been, keeping their eye off the prize.
So is NIL contributing to the death of the king?
Oh, absolutely, it is. I think there's a lot of schools that have NIL programs that people aren't expecting. I don't think people expected, a player of Dylan Raiola's caliber to go to Nebraska, even with his uncle on staff.
Yeah.
Without NIL, I don't think there's any way that he goes there. I don't think there's any way that Colorado gets built up to what they were built up to without NIL. I don't think.
So is it possible with NIL to create a dynasty now?
I mean, it's possible, but you got to pay. Like, you'd have to really, really pay. You'd have to have a lot of people or one incredibly rich person that's incredibly invested pay a lot of money.
Well, one thing that we have seen that the players are chasing the dollars, and I can't blame them at all. There's no loyalty to a school or coach, at least not a whole lot. The players are just chasing the dollars, and there are no really guidelines on that. Who does that benefit? Does it benefit the established team, or does it make room for the up and comers, or what does that do?
It benefits the rich and the interested.
Okay, I like that description.
The Ivy League, obviously, and Stanford have a whole lot of money, but they don't seem to be as interested in utilizing the money in the same way that SMU does, or some of the larger institutions within the Big Ten do. I think the days of being able to get by with an $8 million roster are over. I remember when Ryan Day said Ohio State, it would cost $8 million to fund a competitive roster nowadays. Those days are over.
$8 million will get you a quarterback.
It'll get you a player. It'll get you one player.
Yeah, maybe a player. Wouldn't get you a quarterback in Michigan.
No, it wouldn't. It won't get you the best. Won't get you the best quarterback.
Let's talk about these games. But let's talk about the only game in my mind that was a really good game so far in the playoff. Texas, Arizona State.
The overtime game.
Double overtime game. Texas won.
Arizona State had the player that won the offensive player of the game, though.
MVP. Yeah, and that would have been Scatterboo.
Scatterboo, the guy who had almost had more yards by himself than Texas's entire team.
How good is Scatterboo?
Scatterboo's good, man. He's, arguably the best running back in the country. It's between him and Genty. I think he had a real case to be there in New York with the other guys. He came in 5th in the Heisman voting. Sometimes they have 5 players up there. Sometimes they have, 3. They always have at least 3. Sometimes I've seen them have as much as 6 that one year when they had Jordan Lynch and AJ McCarron or whatever, like a whole bunch of, random guys up there. But this was not a year in which Cam Scatterboo was invited, but I think he proved himself worthy in that game. He was terrible in the first half, throwing up on the sidelines, and
Did Texas deserve to win that game?
Well, it depends on how you feel about targeting and how you feel about the officiating of targeting.
Yeah. To me, that was a definite targeting call before the game went into overtime late in the game. That they let it ride. They let it go.
Yeah, I mean, they did let it go, and that was to the benefit of Texas. I don't think Quinn Ewers looked particularly good, but he has moxie. He has the clutch gene. I think there was times where he would throw a 20-yard out and the ball would take forever to get there, and I was just like, oh, that's going to be a pick hit for sure. And it would just sneak in. So I think that there are limitations with his injuries, but I somehow, some way he pulled it out again.
Last question before we start talking about this third season Friday's game. Notre Dame, Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Had Georgia's quarterback Beck been able to play, would the outcome have been the same? Notre Dame still have won. And I know we don't know, just hypothetically.
That's a good question. I think it would be a lot more competitive. I think that's a game that could have went to overtime. That was a game in which Notre Dame did not have to throw. And they're not good at throwing, so they didn't have to. But I think in a game against Georgia with Carson Beck, they might have actually had to do that. And I think that would have made it a little bit more competitive. Georgia had a lot of drops. They had a lot of receivers, just flat out drop the ball. And, assuming that would have happened with Carson Beck as well, they still probably would have had missed opportunities. But I do think he would have capitalized on a little bit more opportunities. So I do think that Georgia would have won.
Okay.
What say you?
I really don't know, man.
It's hard,
I really
it's
don't
hard
know.
to say.
Carson Beck would have gotten them more yards, but he probably would have gotten them more turnovers as well.
Yeah, it's really hard to say.
Yeah.
He's thrown 12 touchdowns and 12 interceptions against SEC competition this year.
JJ, let's talk about the game Thursday. Let's start with Penn State Notre Dame.
Penn State Notre Dame.
A good matchup. You expect it to be a good matchup?
Yeah, it's a great matchup of good old Midwestern / Northeastern people.
Who's the better team? I mean, I don't mean to say who's the better team, but who do you think will perform better on Thursday, and why?
I think the team that's going to perform better on Thursday is a team that has a quarterback that is multifaceted, and I think that's Drew Aller for Penn State. I think Notre Dame might be like a 1-point favorite, 1.5 point favorite.
Which surprised me.
That surprised me too because I think that might reveal a little bit more about Penn State's elite pass rusher that they have, linebacker who did not play against Boise State.
Okay.
Maybe that's like a foreshadowing that he won't be playing. But if he plays, I can't imagine. I think Penn State has the best player on offense and best player on defense in that scenario. But I think Drew Aller could throw the ball and he can run the ball, and they have other guys that can run the ball as well. So I think Penn State is the team I'd be more concerned with.
Penn State has not been tested in these playoffs.
They have not. They've played SMU, which had not been in the Power 5 until this very year.
Yeah.
And they played Boise State, which is not in the Power 5 currently.
So you believe in Penn State?
Yeah, I believe that they have the guys. I think that they have. I don't think that they have a disadvantage at the coach. Even though Marcus Freeman did go toe to toe with Kirby Smart, and some people thought that he outcoached Kirby Smart,
Yeah.
I do think that James Franklin is about as good a coach as Marcus Freeman. So I think that that's about a wash. I think that I do think Penn State has better players. I know Notre Dame. There's been much that has been made ado about all these transfers that Notre Dame has had. The quarterback from Duke, this guy from Marshall, this guy from this kick returner, whatever from Marshall, and all these guys that they have in the transfer portal that came over, safety from Arkansas. With all that said, I think they do have a lot more athleticism and talent than they had in other years that they made it this far. You remember the Manti Te'o year where they made it against Alabama? They didn't have any business being on the same field, quite frankly. I don't think it's going to be like that. I think it's a lot closer of a match, but I do trust Penn State's guys more. What do you think?
Initially I thought Penn State would be a huge favorite. Not necessarily a huge favorite, but a 6-point favorite. Notre Dame, neither team to me actually have a super big win for the year that stands out as this is a big win.
Yeah.
Who's going to have the home court advantage, JJ? It's going to be in Miami. And both teams actually travel pretty well.
Yeah, Penn State versus Notre Dame. That's a really good question. If it was in the Northeast, that would be an even better question because everybody knows New York is the home of the Notre Dame. But also, Penn State is. I mean, their presence is
a lot of people from New York spend their retired winters in Florida.
In Florida as well.
Penn State travel well. Notre Dame travels really well. Both of them travel really
Good question.
well. I think it may be a 50-50.
I think it's going to be as close as you can get.
Yeah, and you know what? Initially I thought Penn State would be a winner, be a favorite. I'm hoping that it'd be a really good game because I don't want it to go to bed at halftime.
You know what? Regardless, there will be a black coach advancing.
That's correct.
No matter who wins.
Penn State and Notre Dame both have a black coach coaching.
Yeah, they're both technically mixed. James Franklin, I think, is half black, half white, and Marcus Freeman has a black dad and a Korean mother. But they either way, this is the first time. This will be the first time that a black coach has even made it to the Final Four playoff.
Okay.
And no matter what, there's going to be one in the championship game.
Championship game. Let's go to the other game, JJ. That's going to be played Friday.
Ohio State and Texas.
The Ohio State down in Dallas. Big D. JJ.
It's going to be a foot of snow almost.
That's not going to tell you. The forecast right now is on Thursday, 6 to 8 inches of snow.
Yeah, I heard 6 to 10, but hopefully it is going down to maybe just 6 to 8.
Well, the good thing is the game will be indoors.
Yeah, so it won't be too much of an issue for the players themselves. But
to get to the game,
it's going to be an experience because you might not know this, but people in Dallas are not exactly used to seeing that much snow. And trying to navigate that, trying to drive through that will be an adventure for a lot of people familiar with that area.
Well, JJ, I just asked you about who will have the home court advantage in the Orange Bowl with Penn State and Notre Dame. Who will have the home court advantage in the Cotton Bowl with Texas and Ohio State?
That's going to be a 50-50 proposition, I think, as well, because I think Ohio State fans believe in their team. And if they believe, that they will travel like no other team. But also Texas, they have a very robust fan base as well that makes themselves known too. So,
if you don't know about Texas fans, just know that they used to have the Longhorn Network.
It's why Texas A&M left the Big 12.
Texas, they don't. I guess I'm not going to say what I was thinking because that's just an opinion. I don't know for a fact. But Texas fan, I'm thinking Texas is going to have the home court advantage.
I don't know.
I know. It's much closer to Texas.
Yes, it is.
Penn State travels.
Yeah.
I'm from Penn State.
Ohio
State travels. But if you know Texas fans, JJ, they in Dallas, if Ohio State comes to Texas and outnumber Texas fan, Ohio State needs to be crowned champion right then and there. If you ask me. Because I just can't see that happening because of the way Texas operates.
So what do you think the split is going to be? 70-30?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
I think if that's the case, I think there's going to be a lot of the 70% is going to be pretty quiet for most of the game.
Well, JJ, we just said that Penn State hasn't been challenged this year. Mm-hmm. Ohio State hasn't been challenged this year.
Ohio State's been.
They breezed through Tennessee.
They've been challenged. They lost to Oregon, the number 1 team in the country.
I'm talking about in the playoffs.
Oh.
Once there's a new level of intensity once the playoff starts. Ohio State is not the Ohio State from the regular season.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Penn State actually didn't beat anybody in the regular season or the playoffs, so I thought you were talking about the entire year. No. But okay, so just talking about the playoffs, yeah, Ohio State, they breezed through Texas.
They haven't been tested,
but they had to play against the number 1 overall seed, Oregon, the undefeated team that beat Ohio State earlier in the year. They beat Ohio State, they beat Michigan, they beat Penn State.
So what happened in that game, JJ? If they lost in week 6 to Oregon. What happened in the playoff when Oregon lost to Ohio State by 41-21?
Well, I'm just saying, yes, Ohio State breezed through them, but that was still supposed to be a challenge.
Okay.
I mean, what's a bigger challenge than the number 1 team and the last undefeated team left?
Okay, I'll grant you that. Let's talk about the Lone Ranger from the SEC, Texas. And last year, Texas was in the playoff, and they were not in the SEC. They're the only team returning to the Final Four from the previous year. They've been tested in the playoff this year. Is Texas any good?
Texas is pretty good. They don't have a lot of high value wins either until this playoff. They were talked about with the Penn States of the world, the SMUs of the world. People were talking about who were their best wins. Since this playoff started, Texas was able to beat Clemson. They were able to beat Arizona State. They were.
The only loss in the SEC was to Georgia.
Yeah, they lost to Georgia twice.
Yeah.
But what was their best win?
Uh,
Texas A&M.
I don't know. Did they play Mississippi?
Texas did not play in Mississippi.
Okay. They play LSU. I don't really know. The fact,
No, I don't think
the,
they
the,
did.
the fact that I don't know what their best win is let you know that they didn't have a great win. But their kryptonite has been Georgia.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, and Georgia is no longer standing.
Okay.
However, they do get to play Ohio State, which might be everybody's kryptonite.
Let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Texas, Ohio State. Who has the better quarterback?
Who has a better quarterback? I'll take Ohio State's quarterback.
Okay. What's the better defense?
Better defense, I will take Texas.
I'm shocked that you say that. I actually agree with you on that on the defense. And I'm not. I'm
It's
not.
close. I think Ohio State's good.
Oh, they're very good. And the quarterback is close too. I'm not sure I would take Howard for Ohio State over Quentin Ewers of Texas.
Oh, I definitely would.
The last time you said that Howard went out and made me look really bad when you said he was way better than Tennessee quarterback, and he was 1,000 times better than Tennessee.
Yeah. I just think he has a lot. He's a lot more dynamic, and he has big play experience. They won the Big 12. They beat TCU with him at quarterback at Kansas State. I think he has the ability to use his legs. I think that's something that Quinn Ewers can't really do. But he ran for a 70-yard touchdown against Texas when he was at Kansas State. So I think he hasn't even done that. So I think that that's a component that he can always add if he's not having a good day throwing the ball.
So you as far as just throwing the ball, you think Howard is a better passer?
I think Quinn Ewers is hurt. I don't think he can make the out. He has no zip on his ball when he's throwing. I think something has happened to him. I don't know if it's his shoulder, but it takes the ball forever to get
okay
to get where he wants it to go. And I don't think Will Howard has that same issue. He threw for over 300 yards against Oregon twice, and against Tennessee. I think Will Howard can turn it on. I think he's turned it on.
Okay, you may be right on that. You may be right. Give me your winner.
Ohio State.
Will it be? Will I watch the third quarter of that game?
You might. I will not. I think Ohio State is up by double digits comfortably going into the fourth quarter. The spread was only like 6 points, I think, or something.
I think it was.
You should put your money on Ohio State. They're winning by a touchdown. Ryan Day is going to send a message. I think they have more talent, and Steve Sarkisian is a great coach, and he can draw up, great game plan to start with the best of them, and he can make adjustments at halftime, and it's yada yada yada. At the end of the day, Ohio State has better players. I think they win.
I think Ohio State has better player. I think their receiving core is far better than Texas, although Texas is decent. My only concern with Ohio State is the fact that they haven't been tested. And what will they do if for some unexplainable reason Texas get a lead on them and the game be close in the fourth quarter? Will they have the fortitude to make a comeback?
I think that they will.
Okay.
I think that they won't. I think they were stubborn against Michigan. I think they tried to beat Michigan, not just. I think they wanted to, send a message to Michigan, like, we can beat you at your own game too. And they really should just beat them doing what they do. And I think that they really understood that. I just can't really foresee them. I think they've been tested throughout the season. They played Oregon very close. They almost won that game. They played Penn State, who is one of the 4 teams left in the tournament. And so I think that they've been tested in the regular season, even though, the playoffs they haven't. I think that they have a mission.
Okay. My only thought is Ohio State has better running backs than Texas. Texas' running game disappeared against Arizona State.
So better.
I don't even think they got 100 yards against Arizona
Better
State.
running backs.
Better
receivers. Better quarterback. So, is there a skill position player that you would say would start?
Well, like I said, the quarterback for one. I mean, I'm not totally convinced on that. But
Okay.
this is you said Texas had the better defense, right?
Yeah, I do think that they have a slightly better pass rush.
And I do think Ohio State's offensive line is going to be tested in the same manner that they were tested against Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think the exact same manner. I mean, they have the first and probably third defensive tackle that are going to be drafted in the NFL draft on Michigan's team. I mean, I think Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant are a little bit different than Texas, but I don't think they're going to try to run. You're right. I do think that they're going to try to incorporate the running backs and more bubble screen type, swing passes. Like they're going to try to get horizontal with the running backs because I do think that they're going up against a formidable defense.
Well, JJ, I'm going to be staying up late Friday because I think it's going to be a close game. But I will go with the team with the better players from top to bottom. And that would be Ohio State. But Ohio State, you better take care of business early. Don't make it close in the fourth quarter.
Well, I wouldn't mind it if Texas won, but I unfortunately have to agree with the Ohio State. Yeah.
Well, JJ, I could talk about this, for another hour, but I'm not gonna indulge everyone. Did I leave out something that you want to talk about, that you want to mention?
No, I think that's really it. I mean, we're coming down to the Final Four. The first 12-team playoff has been a success.
Minor. I would give it a C plus,
C plus,
maybe a B minus.
but it can be saved by an
can
epic Final Four, and hopefully we get that.
If these four teams play great games, it will be saved. I'm out of here, JJ. What's my motto? WPS.
We'll pick Suey.
We'll pick Suey. Let's get out of here, bro.
Rest in peace, my